get a sense of who that is. Is there anyone in here who is a cancer survivor today? Just show of hands. David, Fran, yay. Do I see any others? Okay. Oh, and Bob, and then I have lost her on, oh, and Stan. Okay, I've lost her on the screen, but there was also someone, I think it was Sandra maybe, but now I'm not sure, who said, I don't have to fight cancer and I'm really grateful, or maybe it was Jane. But either way, super happy you don't have to fight it. I don't wish for that day for any of you. Okay, show of hands, how many in the group are COVID survivors? Have had COVID and you're here to say, hey, I made it. Yay, Sandra, good. Not good that you had to go through it, but good that you survived it. I would argue the entire group is a COVID survivor. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I would say you're all COVID survivors. It's been hard. I was going to ask a silly question earlier. Maybe someone can answer it, but do you guys just pay fines now by like Venmo? Because it used to be you could do that in person. I think everybody's muted, so you probably can't answer me. But when we do unmute you, I want to know that answer. Okay, so what makes me unique? I wrote a book, and I'm working on book number 2. But I wrote a book. Blaine probably shared it with you, and I don't know. I think he might be giving away one of these. But that's me with a bald head, and my 2 little people with bald heads as well. They think that I had a bald head because they were bald. They think I did it for them, and they're right. I did do it for them. I fought hard for them, but that was not why my head was bald. And they are now 7 years old. So at 6 months old, my girls, they were about 6 months old when I found out that I had to fight cancer. And I found out that it was the most aggressive form of breast cancer you can have. Now that they're 7, I have literally fought cancer for 6 of their 7 years. And do you know, other than autographing the book that they're on the cover of, which they like to do, they don't know that I've fought cancer. They know that I was sick at some point, but they don't really know that I fought cancer because they never had to feel it. And I'm grateful for that. And it's partially why I'm unique. So everyone says, everybody's written a book on cancer. What's so different about your book or your journey? Well, I didn't write a book on cancer. I wrote a book on resilience. I wrote a book on how do you tackle your speed bump when you're faced with it. We've all had to be faced with at least one monumental speed bump in life. If we haven't, well, then we just haven't lived long enough, because if we're human, we're going to experience many of them. You know, the ones that like take your breath away. You get the gut punch and you don't know how to respond. Those kind of monumental speed bumps. And you need a paper bag to breathe in and out of because you just didn't see it coming. Well, that is actually very normal. We're human, that's normal. How we respond to it is the most critical component, and that's what I've done differently. I did have a quote for you all that I thought I would share. Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. So when I was faced with my speed bump, I said, oh, and if you didn't know, that's Winston Churchill, just in case you all wanted to know. But when I was faced with my speed bump, I said, you know what? I want to face this with humor, grace, and tenacity. And I want to use this experience to help other people. So what I did is I ventured out on a journey that, quite honestly, you have to love the journey. I didn't love it at first. If you had told me on New Year's Eve of 2014, hey, Happy New Year, I think I probably flipped you off, because I did not want to face the year ahead knowing I was starting chemo on January 2nd. And people wished me a Happy New Year, and I'm like, really? What do you think is going to be great about next year? Because it's going to suck. And I got to tell you, I had a bad attitude for probably about 24 hours. And then I remembered that, you know what? I have a gift that's been given to me, and I've got to make the most of what I've got. This is an incredible gift, so let's do something special with it. So I challenged every single doctor that I had, and I didn't do anything that they recommended, I'll be honest. I was a pain in the butt. And that's what made me unique, is they would say, okay, this isn't going to be a year where you should exercise heavily. This isn't going to be a year where you're going to set personal bests or personal records. And you need to accept that. And you need to take care of yourself and be really patient with your body, because it's going to be really beat up. Well, that was an understatement. Fighting cancer was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Fighting cancer a second time was the most brutal thing I've ever done in my life, because I knew what was ahead, and that's what made it even harder. You can do anything once. Doing it a second time, I'll tell you what, that's where the hard stuff comes in. So that's why I'm writing a second book on being a warrior. What's a warrior mindset, and how do you really do epic stuff? I'm going to say stuff because some people are offended by the real word that I use. So Living Life Loudly, the book itself, was written with intention in mind to take the learnings that I had, because I had been given a gift of being in Rotary, of working in the corporate world for so many years of my life, that I knew strategy and I knew execution, and how you mirror those things and get them to combine into something miraculous is really what your journey in life has to be about. So no matter what speed bump you're faced with, if you have the right strategy, you've got the right team, and then you can execute, you'll be successful, or at least have the best opportunity to be successful. So what did that mean for me? It meant that I had to choose to live life loudly. And what that meant is to do things my way, to do things differently, and to find joy in every day. And I like to teach people that you can find the utmost happiness during COVID times, even if you can put a little vacation in every single day. If you think about it, you can't eat an elephant all at once, and that's what a journey with cancer is all about, or that's what this journey with COVID has been all about. You cannot eat the entire elephant. It's just overwhelming, and it'll stop you and freeze you in your tracks. But if you can just eat it one bite at a time, you'll eventually get there. Can I tell you, that is the worst analogy ever. Who wants to eat an elephant? But you guys know what I'm talking about. So you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time, and living life loudly means that every single day has to be treated as if it's your last. It means you have to choose to maybe skip the laundry and instead go take your wife out to lunch, or go take your spouse out for ice cream, or go pick up a grandchild or a child and say, I'm taking you out of school for a minute so we can go do something fun. What would you like to do? You can't have a laundry skipping day every day, but you can have a laundry skipping moment every day, right? So instead of choosing the rigor and monotony of every single day, you still have to find a way to infuse something really powerful into every day with intention. Now, what that means is you probably have to cut out something not so positive every day. And I'll give you my example. What I did is I took stock in what gave me true joy every day and what did not. How many of you have ever woken up in the morning and said, I want to be inspired today. I'm going to turn on the news. Does anybody ever do that? Okay, there might be a couple of you, but seriously, that is like the most depressing way to wake up in the morning. So don't do it. If you have to choose things that you can cut out of your life, choose the things that don't truly give you joy. When you do that, you'll then replace it with something that does. Maybe it's a phone call to someone you haven't called in a while, or maybe it's just going out and watering your plants. For me, it would be replacing it with a bike ride or a walk with my kids or something outdoors. I'm always outdoors as often as I can be. I even write my book outdoors because I think bigger when I'm in big open spaces. So when I was choosing how to live life loudly, I was choosing very precisely what to cut out and what to add in. And here was the last piece to my really powerful equation of how to live life loudly. I started off the first 6 months of chemo, and I had to go through 18 months of chemo. It's pretty brutal. But fortunately, most people go through 3 or 4 months, maybe 6. 18's hard. So for the first 6 months, what I did is I had a whiteboard that on my way out the door, I would look at it. And on that whiteboard, it said, find one reason to smile today. Well, at about the 6-month mark, I realized that I was doing it all wrong. It wasn't about find one reason to smile today. It was find one person to create a smile on their face. I was all about me. It was all about, I need to find one reason to smile today. What is that? That's selfish, right? That's not helpful. It did help me to choose joy and to walk into every single chemo round. Even if it was 9 hours of chemo, I made every one of those nurses laugh. I made all of those patients around me laugh. And that for me was enjoyable. And what I realized is I stopped at some point trying to find one reason to smile. And I started to find at least one person to make smile. Do you feel that difference? It sounds simple, but it's huge in impact. And when I did that, I found that I was living every single day much louder than the previous day. And that's what Living Life Loudly is all about. I would tell you this, if you think about it, you probably know someone who has not been so resilient, either through one of their own speed bumps or through this COVID crisis or challenge. We can probably all think of someone who has either become a hermit, they've lived in fear, they're in the darkness right now, or they've chosen to really withdraw. Maybe they're depressed. This group doesn't strike me as that kind of group, but you probably all know someone that is. The best way to help them out of it and to show them how to be resilient is to give them your smile. If you can't give it to them in person, then certainly over a Zoom video, but I can tell you right now, the people that are lifting up out of their despair are doing 3 things. They're exercising every day. Could you convince them to go for a walk with you? Even if you're both wearing masks, get them out walking. Every single time you infuse exercise in your day, you release all of these powerful toxins, that's not the right word, powerful chemicals that get you to uplift your spirits. That's step number 1. If you can get them to exercise, you'll get them out of that funk, that depression. Number 2 is that you've got to teach them how to do something for somebody else. And maybe that's you starting by giving them a hug if they'll let you. Or maybe that's you doing something for them. Every single chance you get, if you can teach them that just go think about somebody else, volunteer to do something for somebody else, you forget all about your pain and it lifts your spirits. And then the third thing is that you've got to have them cut out anything that's not giving them joy. And if you can get them to just cut out one thing that makes them fearful or makes them live in those dark emotions, I think you'll find that even that alone will make the biggest impact. There are a lot of amazing speakers and incredible authors out there that are writing about the secrets of happiness right now and the science of happiness. And I can tell you from my journey firsthand, the most powerful one is the exercise piece. And I chose to exercise every single day on my journey, and I won't bore you with it because it's in my book, but I'll tell you what, the things that I did were kind of crazy. I think back to them now and I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? I'm really glad that I did them, but they were pretty crazy. I did 24-hour mountain bike races on chemo. In the middle of the desert where there is nobody to help me, and if I break an arm, it's not gonna be good, right? I went snow skiing, and I don't ski on just groomed runs. I prefer the trees. I call them my green runs, but they are chocked full of danger. And if it says danger cliff area, I'm going off it. I did that on chemo. Went scuba diving on chemo. So lots of crazy, wild things that I didn't let anything I was going through stop me. Now, don't get me wrong. The day after the hardest chemo rounds, the best I could do would be to walk about a half a mile, and it would take me an hour. And I probably threw up 3 times along the way, but I still did it. And there wasn't a day in there that I didn't exercise. And people say, wait, but you need rest. You need rest for recovery. You guys, if you exercise 1 hour a day, you still get 23 hours of rest in that day. Trust me, that's plenty. I'm doing the math and I'm not sure I get it when people say, but you need more than that. You need a couple of days in a week to rest. I'm going to call bullshit on that. No, you don't. You need 23 hours of rest. And I argue I do just fine with 20. I exercise a lot longer than that. So do that to infuse a lot of happiness in your lives. I think book number 2 will probably come out later this year or early in January. It's going to, well, at this point, I think it's going to be called Do Epic Shit, but we'll see. I may change it to Do Epic Stuff, but it'll be all about a warrior's mindset. Mike likes that. Thank you. It's interesting. I get a lot of advice that Do Epic Shit will probably turn people off, and they may not read it. So we'll see. I may cave, but knowing me, not likely. I thought maybe I could just open it up. I know you guys don't have a lot of time left, but I thought I could open it up if Blaine's willing to unmute you to see if you have any questions.
Hey, who's going to be first? There's got to be a ton of questions.
Fire away. I think Bobby's raising her hand.
Bobby, go right ahead.
My husband is a mountain biker. He's 71 years old, so I have a lot of respect for that. He does 100 miles a week. How into the mountain biking were you before the cancer? I mean, were you already a really serious mountain biker, and were you able to continue that off and on at all?
Yeah, so it was hard. The first 6 months, I was a mountain biker for about 10 years before that, and then started to learn more about road cycling, and I did triathlons as well. So I knew the road would be easier. So I ended up having to do more on the, let's say, half marathon distance and running. So I had to do more walk running. Then once you got to like day 5 after chemo, I could actually run. So I did a lot of walk. Well, I'd call it snail walk, but snail walk to walk jog to finally run. And then I would train for a half marathon. And I did one about every 3 or 4 months. And then the mountain bike racing I continued to do, but it was not until about month 5 or 6 where the chemo started to get a little bit different. Not as, I don't want to say it wasn't as intense, but it was a different kind of intense. It was an all body pain ache thing versus a flat out can't function thing. And once I moved to that, I could deal with pain. The pain was fine. It was the not having any ability to move that was the hard part. So once I moved to that part, I could start mountain biking again. And I actually did that 24-hour mountain bike race in February, and I had started chemo in January. So I was actually at pretty intense chemo when I did that mountain bike race. I've only missed this 24-hour mountain bike race 2 times. One, the first year out of the 22 years that they've been doing it, I didn't know it existed. And then the second time, it was only 3 weeks before that I had my twins, and I couldn't race yet. But other than that, all the times I've been on chemo, I've fully raced. And in fact, Lance Armstrong came out to the race 3 years into my battle and presented me with an award because they usually dedicate the race to a pro athlete. I'm no pro athlete, I'm an amateur for sure, just a little crazy. And so they dedicated that race to me. It was the first time that a non-pro got the race dedicated to them. So he flew out and introduced me, and that was a real honor. But it was only because he had mountain biking in his blood and cancer in his blood. And so it kind of gave us a reason to collide, if you will. So hopefully that helps.
Victoria, what about your children? Are they following in your footsteps and bicycle steps?
Yeah, well, one for sure. The other one's naturally talented, but she doesn't enjoy it. She'll ride, she'll go with me, but my other one, Parker, oh my gosh, that little one, she loves mountain biking and loves jumping off things. So I think she might be a little bit more wild than I am. She's very, yes, she's very creative and loves to mountain bike. I would say they both love some of the sports that I love. They both love to ski. They like to ice skate, and I'm hoping I'll have future scuba divers in them. But they definitely love to travel the world already and have been all over it and are talking about it. They're like, Mom, next time we go skiing in Austria, can we go stop by Paris? I'm like, Wow. Okay, this is pretty cool that they're thinking like that. So I would say that I've got one that for sure follows in my footsteps. The other one likes to stay a little more grounded like her dad.
Well, you're a great inspiration. Thank you.
My pleasure.
You know, everything that you talk, you try to absorb everything that you shared with us today. It's been amazing. The name of the book, and I know you potentially been looking for a new one. How about Cream of Crab?
I like that.
Just throwing it out there.
I like that. Oh my gosh, I think that's beautiful.
What was it, Mike?
Cream of Crab. Instead of the choice words that we heard her, and I was right with her. I'm all for it. But I'm just saying, I thought about it. I thought I'd share it with you.
I love it. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Victoria. A couple more comments, guys. I wish we could keep her on. Go ahead, Al, go ahead.
Was there anything about your spiritual faith that helped you through this journey?
Oh, that's a good one. Everyone asks me that one. I am not a Christian. I was raised one. I didn't have a lick of spirituality in me when I started the journey. A lot of the support groups that I went to said that that was really important. And I kind of felt, wow, I feel really bad that it's not part of my journey right now. Well, it ended up becoming that, and I gained spirituality by the end of the journey. I would definitely classify me as Buddhist. It took me a long time to try to figure out where am I, what do I think, and how do I feel, and where do I fit. And I definitely resonate most spiritually with the Buddhist beliefs. And so I found an incredible psychologist, which I'll tell you guys, I think when you're born, you need to be born given your social security card and probably a psychologist card, because we deal with so much stuff that we all need one at some point. And it was the psychologist that I met with that said, let's explore this, and gave me several books and then meetings for me to attend that helped me to find my spirituality. And I'm grateful for it. I'll be honest, I've had people pray for me in every religious belief you can actually name, every single one. I'm baffled by it. Utter strangers all the way across the world who would send me a note and say, I heard about your story and here's how I prayed for you, or here's how I fasted for you, and here's, in our belief system, here's what that means. And so I'm honored because I feel like I've had every kind of prayer that you could have, and that lifted me up. And it also forced me to go on a journey to seek, what did I truly believe in? So I still pray, more so for others, I think, than myself, but I definitely live the Buddhist belief system and lifestyle. That was a great question.
Tori, if I could share this with you real quickly. I'm a county jailer here in Kentucky.
Oh, that's cool.
And I do a program, it's called Pathfinders. And part of that program is when hope is removed from any of us, that we have to create tools of hope to help those people get back to feeling normal.
Yep.
You are the best tool of hope that I think I've encountered.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
I'm
To hear your
honored.
story, your conviction, your commitment, and you are literally that you are that person
Thank
that can change
you.
people's lives.
Thank you. Well, and I believe in the ripple effect. I may be speaking to all of you, but I think the most important thing is that you now find one more person to share that story with, or to share those tools with, because there are so many out there that can use that help. And not everyone's willing, I understand that, but I think even trying, maybe you can impact one more life by sharing either your own story or the tools that you've heard or learned, or you can find my books. If you ever want it autographed for somebody, you can go onto my website. So you can buy it two ways. You can get it on Amazon. You just put in Living Life Loudly and then Kramer for the last name and it'll pop right up. That one gets obviously shipped to you like whatever, overnight or same day these days. But unfortunately, it doesn't come with any special message. So if you go to victoriakramer.com, Kramer with a C, then on victoriakramer.com, I just set it up, so I haven't actually had anyone try it or buy yet. So reach out to me and tell me if there's a hiccup, but you can buy it there. And I set it up so that you can put a note in there so that if you want me to autograph the book for someone, I can give them an uplifting message along with it and then ship it out. Obviously, it's not as fast that way because they're getting something more personalized, but it's also a little less expensive that way. So there are your two options, but hopefully you'll pass the message forward. And then the other option is you can reach out to me anytime, and I'd be happy to do other speaking engagements if you think there's audience that needs a little sprinkle of Victoria.